Greetings, dear ones. I am Sonia, the host of the Treasure Is You podcast. Let us aspire to be the greatest forms of physical expression by allowing our presence to navigate our current destination through the highways of our minds, the roads of infinite potential, and within the inner sanctum of our heart, knowing that the treasure is you. Hello, dear ones. As you can see, I have a lovely guest on the Treasure Is You podcast. And first, I would like to give a brief description of her. She is a certified tarot master, psychic medium. She's a teacher, an ordained minister, and she has been reading for over 50 years. And she is a full-time intuitive counselor with clients worldwide. Corbie Mitleid has always been the different one, a writer and a visionary in a completely medical family, father a doctor, mother a nurse, brother a doctor. She has always made her own path rather than to take one cut for her by others. Leaving a Ivy League university after 2 years, Corbie struck out to find her joy and purpose. Her purpose lived regardless of what she was told she ought to do. The path wasn't easy. 2 marriages, which didn't last, and a constant search for a partner who understood. A succession of jobs, a series of spiritual paths, moving from Cambridge to Philadelphia, Poughkeepsie,
Nobody can pronounce that either.
to Poughkeepsie, to New York City, to Atlanta. Out of the blue, breast cancer, not once, but 3 times. Life became a roller coaster with no breaks, asking Corbie to survive divorce, abuse, poverty, and life-threatening illness. But through it all, she learned the value of the examined life. Meeting challenges and always asking the next question. Facing each new situation with strength, courage, and humor. So I welcome you, Corbie Mitleid, to the Treasure Is You podcast.
It's great to be here, Sonia. Thanks for asking me.
Yes. It is definitely a delight to have you here. I already feel the wisdom that is within you. And yeah, I'm just happy that you're here to share today.
My pleasure.
Yes, it is a pleasure. So let me just ask you, how was it since you had the courage, 50 years of you being an intuitive counselor, right? 50 years?
I've been reading since I was 18 and I'm 70. Yep.
Wow. So I know when you first started doing this, it was scary, right? Was it scary or no? Or it was more like an adventure?
Nope. This goes into what I call my 30-second elevator speech because most people want to know, how did you get started? When I was 9, I read a book called The Witch Family by Eleanor Estes, and I went, oh, there's magic in the world. I want to go find it. Right. Fast forward to 1973, when I was a senior in high school, working part-time at Spencer Gifts. That was the year that Live and Let Die came out with Jane Seymour as Solitaire the card reader. And Spencer's had the James Bond 007 tarot deck, and I bought it because we were all hippies then. You had your elephant bell bottoms and your David Crosby fringe jacket and your deck. Yeah. 5 years later, everyone else had moved on to roller skates and disco balls. Me, I loved the cards. I loved the stories that they told. Right. So for 20 years, I read for friends, keeping my ego out of the way and making sure I was a clear channel for the information. Right. Then, all of a sudden, in the early to mid 90s, the universe handed me my draft notice and I could do hands-on healing and talk to dead people with no training. That's when I started doing this professionally, but part-time. Meanwhile, that checkered career: actress, author, inspirational speaker, video producer, legal assistant, executive recruiter, writer for the graphics novel series ElfQuest. but the psychic work was always on the side. Then came 9/11. And as we watched the towers burn, I turned to my husband, the right husband this time, and said, I need to do this work full time. People need to know there are other answers out there. He said, I believe in you, go do it. So for one more year, I worked corporate. And after that, slammed the door. Since
Mm.
then, it's 6 days a week, 14 hours a day. I read about 1,000 people a year, and I get to get up in the morning. I don't have to get up in the morning. That's the biggest key.
Wow. Yeah, it is. Wow, what a story. What a story. For me, I can relate to a lot of what you're saying because right now, we're all on a journey,
Mhm.
but a lot of us are becoming more aware. Would you say that? Like the world, we're becoming more aware of ourselves?
Yes, because the world changes as fast as it does now. You know, 1845 to 1855, for the average person, wasn't a lot of change. Now, 2014 to 2024, it's massive change. So
Right.
we have to be awake, just like you can't be asleep in the wheel in the car if you're on a highway. It's one thing
Right.
if you're on a back road with the cows, but other cars going past you at 80, no, you got to be awake.
Right. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I'm noticing that with myself and with others because yeah, as I said, I'm on my journey and this part for me is believing in myself. That's a part of where I'm at, believing
Yes.
in myself. So a lot of what I speak about from my heart is to help others as well to believe in themselves.
Mm.
So once we all do that, that helps to elevate the planet because
Yes.
we are all at least believing in ourselves and not continuing that old narrative of not believing in ourselves, right? The victimhood narrative, blaming narrative. Yeah, I've been
Mhm.
through all of that. So it's like we have to step in our power. We have to have the courage to walk forward and say, okay, I'm ready for this journey, this new exciting journey. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I believe enough in myself that I'm going to take the first step. And I see that's
Mhm.
what you did at a very young age. That
Yes.
is amazing. It really is. So,
I want to touch on what you just said about I'm moving ahead. I don't know what's ahead, but I'm moving one step at a time. When people say I can't do that, I remind them, if you got in a car and you were driving from Boston to Los Angeles, there would be stretches where there weren't any streetlights, and all you could do is see maybe 100 feet ahead with your headlights. But you knew that LA was on the other side of the road. That's life. We
yes.
can only see so far, but when
Right.
our hearts and minds know that's where I want to go, we get there.
Yeah, you're right. We do get there. So, yeah, I mean, like what you just said, what I just said, all of these things are a part of all of our journeys and
Mhm.
being able to be aware, as I said, because that's major. Would you say that's major?
It's the key. It really
Yeah.
is. And,
Yes.
teachers like you and me, we have to help people see those things. They're
Right.
like treasures they can stick in their pocket and take out when they have self doubt,
Right.
confusion, exhaustion.
Right. Exactly. I want to ask you as well animals. Do you like animals?
I am a Maine Coon mom cat and have been for 40 years. They're little dogs and,
Yeah.
well, they're little dogs in cat suits, but they're like 23 pounds. They're huge.
Wow. Yes, I love animals as well, and I love cats. I don't have any animals just yet because I'm in a transition, just moving to this state,
Hmm.
and I'm just getting settled, getting myself together. But yes, I do. I am eventually going to get a cat. But yeah, I just wanted to know because that just popped in my head as I was about to ask you something else, and
Hmm.
I was like told to ask you about cats. So you said how long you had your cat?
The current one, Prawn, he's 8, but my
Mhm.
very first Maine Coon I got in 1985. And
Whoa.
for me, they are true hearts partners. I even had one that came back a second time, which
Yes.
is not all that rare. When we have a heart's bond with an animal, it will do that if
Mm-hmm.
we need them.
Right. Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm getting chills when you say that. I just love it. I would say a previous version of myself, like I didn't
Hmm.
really care for animals. I didn't care for
Hmm.
cats. But
Hmm.
now, because of who I am now, I love animals. I love cats. I just love them. My heart opens up. It's like I connect with them.
Hmm.
So that's another thing that that came to my head because I love animals. But
Animals,
right,
cats, and dogs, unconditional love for us.
yes, yes,
And that is so
abs-
healing.
yes, I love it. That's why I bring it up. I like deers too. I see a lot of deers here in New Jersey. I
Hmm.
love
We
them.
we have them too. I live at the tip of the northern Catskills in the middle of a 12-acre hayfield, and
Ah,
we have deer and foxes and eagles and all kinds of things. So yes, deer are
wow.
beautiful.
Ah, yeah, I look at them in the eyes and they look at me and I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna mess with you. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But yeah, I just love their energy. So okay, next I'm gonna talk about is your books.
Yes,
With the
ma'am.
first book, well, not the first book. I love the titles of all your books.
Hmm.
You got the magic. Who needs a genie?
Hmm.
Are you kidding me? I love that title. So
Thank
can
you.
we talk a little bit about that?
We can. Now, that's actually what I call a niche book because
Okay.
I um I was on the road pre-COVID, 45 weekends a year, 45,000 miles on the car. My nickname was the Travel Channel, but the universe had kept telling me, it's time for you to come off the road. And I kept going, no, 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 they're too much fun. I love being a Hilton Diamond. I walk in and they do the Wayne's World They're not worthy thing. And the universe said, well, you're done. So all of a sudden in July of 2019, I got a herniated disc and pinched nerves. And baby, that makes having triplets look like a tea party.
Mm,
Now, I got back 85%, I'd say, within 4 months. But the doctor said, we're sorry, but your career is over. You cannot drive 10 hours one way in a car. You cannot do the heavy load in and load out.
right.
So quickly, I got my whole work online.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happened in March of 2020, but the advent of the years I call murder hornet bingo and hold my beer? All of my friends who only did work on the circuit, they tanked, they went bankrupt, they were a mess. My business just continued up like that because the universe said, we know what we need you to do.
Right.
So I listen a little better now. Okay.
Yes.
Um, but I had 18 years of knowledge. And there are lots of shows and lots of younger intuitives out there. So that's what this book is about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's everything that I knew: how to choose fairs, how to get a front person, how to do your booth, how to network, how to work with your clients. And there are also some things in there that I call Corbie Gets Candid. And these are things that happened to me that you're not going to find in a standard business book. I talk about the fact that I have sign-in sheets always.
Mm,
And that is because years ago in London, Ontario, I was reading a young man, early to mid 20s, and he really didn't like what I was telling him. So got up, left, okay, fine. The next morning, I found an anonymous death threat on my table,
hmm.
but he was in handwriting. I matched the handwriting on the sign-in sheet, turned it over to the police, and they took care of it.
Ah,
Yes, it's a lot. We would always love to think it's love, light, and
yeah.
unicorn tears, but it's not. This is the
No.
world.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do this full time, make a life at it, you've got to know how to take care of yourself on all business levels. And
Mhm.
sometimes that's part of it.
Yeah.
So everything that I know is in there so that people can go and do the shows and the expos, because very often that's how people get a first connection with the world of psychics and intuitives.
Yeah.
We need those shows. That's
Yeah.
okay that I'm home. Give it to the next generation.
Right. Wow. So yeah, so you've been on you've been traveling on the road for like how long? How many years?
Right after 9/11
Oh, right after
to
9/11.
yep, to 2019. And I still do some shows occasionally, and I still like these podcasts. I have clients all over the world. But
Mhm.
the most important thing is it is time to be an elder, not a boomer. Now, this is important. And
Yeah.
everybody who is boomerish age, I want you to listen carefully.
Mhm.
The difference between a boomer and an elder knows when it's time to walk off the stage and give the light to the younger generations.
Right.
We do not constantly tell them how we did it better. We shut up. We listen. We
Right.
answer questions when they are asked. And we become third trenchers. Now, what's this? Way back in World War One, trench warfare. First trench is when the soldiers went over the top. Second trench were the reserves. The third trench, medic, food, supplies. So those of us who are boomer age elders, if someone is doing a massive event to feed the homeless, we're the one who makes the sandwiches. We're the ones who clean the pots and pans. We leave it to millennials, Gen Zs to put their stamp on it, to talk to the media, to shape the event,
Right.
because that's how they will gain the confidence to move forward. Face it, we did not worry about being shot to death in school. We did not have a fear that the earth might be uninhabitable before we died. We did not have to worry about being attacked if we got a vaccine, loved a certain person, thought a certain way. They have a much tougher time in the world than we did. So it is our job as elders to give them what they need to shine brightly and not
Right.
worry about us anymore.
Right. Wow. Yes, I definitely see that and get that and I understand that totally. Yes. Cuz you already paved the way and you're allowing the newer generation to pave their way for the world.
Mm-hmm,
Yes. That's beautiful. Absolutely. So I want to ask you now,
mm-hmm,
with all of your traveling around the world and the globe, what
mm-hmm.
have you noticed throughout your 50 years of being a guide and giving guidance and seeing things? What is the most important thing or something that sticks out through your whole 50 years that you can just resonate and say right now that you like?
But besides the fact that 95% of the readings start with some variation of "Does Bruce love me?" I mean, they just do. Um, the most important thing is I'm not a fortune teller. I present people with their options because that's about free will.
Right.
And that's how you can stay safe. If you just assume that the psychic is going to tell you everything, that sets you up for the fake gypsies who go, "Oh, I know you want to start this business, but you have a family curse. It is blocking. Here is a $600 candle. Burn one every week." No, I mean, forget it. Okay. Which is why when people sit down with me, the first thing I'll say to them is, "What's the most important thing you want to know?"
Right.
And then if they go blank on me, I go Brooklyn on them and go, "Darling, what's biting your butt?" Because you say that and everybody's got at least one. So, what I teach my clients is, for instance, don't ask the yes or no questions, ask how.
Right.
If you, let's say, you wanted to start your own broadcasting studio, to ask a psychic, will it be a success? And if they say no, what do you do? So instead, I would give you what I call my entrepreneur spread.
Right.
Card for you, a card for the energy around the business, the brick and mortar location, how to market it, clients, competition, staff, finances, what you need to know, and best possible outcome. There is so much information there that you can take and shape your own future. That's why I'm not a fortune teller. I am an intuitive counselor because
Right.
I want you to leave my booth with a rocket pack on your back, ready to take on the world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I feel the same way about that because we all have our own, as you said in your book, you
Mhm.
got the magic. Who needs a genie? So
Yes.
yeah, so because of that, I feel, and I believe you feel, you're giving them the guidance so they can move forward in their own divine power because we all
Yes.
have it, right?
Yes. And
Yes.
you know how often people say, I could never do what you do. And I say, yes, you could. We're all wired like the same house plant. Okay. We all
Mhm.
have the
Yes.
abilities. The other way I tell them is we all have 10 fingers.
Yes.
Everybody can pick out chopsticks. Some of us
Yes.
love the idea of music, so we learn to read music and we practice our scales. 1 in 100 million is Elton John, Alicia Keys. So, but we all have 10 fingers. How far you go with it is going to be up to you.
Right. Right. Yes. Yeah, what you're saying is, that's hitting home for me because, I'm a part of the whole of all of what's going on in this world. We're all
Hmm.
connected, we're all interwoven together with our consciousness, our awareness, the universe, the earth. And yeah, when you tap into your own greatness, when you start stepping out, you start to see it. But if you don't step out, right? How would you ever believe in yourself if you don't take the first step to at least okay, say, okay, I want to do this. I want to be an astronaut, right? So I'm going to do the steps to become an
Hmm.
astronaut. But you want to be it, but you're not taking the steps. How are you going to achieve it, right?
Hmm.
So I see that a lot in my past self and in other people, because I observe a lot. I'm an
Hmm.
observer. And yeah, so I always speak about what you said in your book that you got the magic. Like you
Hmm.
got the magic. I say that a lot because you do have the magic. And a lot of people with the word magic, because of some old programs related to the word magic, they may not resonate with that, right? Because of
Hmm.
old programming. But magic to me is alignment. You're just aligned to your power to achieve the possible. Because in my
Yes.
world, anything is possible, not
Hmm.
impossible. Anything is possible once you step forward. Like you said, we all have free will. So
Yes, we do.
yes, when you use your free will, you are going to see some results. I'm not going to say instantly because guess what? This is a journey, right? This is a
Hmm.
journey, and we got to learn from every step of the journey. And when you do that, and that's being aware too. See how everything's coming together. Everything we're talking about is interwoven, the
Hmm.
the awareness, the steps, the journey. What else I said? I can't even remember what I said. What else did I say about being a genie? All
Hmm.
these things that we're talking about comes together to help you become the greatest version of yourself every day, right?
Yes.
It's never stopping. It's infinite, right? It's
Yes.
infinite.
Old saying, what doesn't change dies. So we will change every single moment of our lives until
Yes.
we transition out of the body.
Yes. Yes. And I think that's fascinating. It's fascinating to just have that awareness, to key into that.
Hmm.
Because when you do key into that, this is, what I feel, it elevates you. It gives you that will and that power to persevere, to move forward. Yeah. So when you do that, then guess what happens? You're vibrating at a level that you're attracting the right people in your life to help you,
Yes.
uh, right? And
Yes,
the
you are.
things that you want to achieve,
Hmm.
because we are all a vibrational energetic essence here. That's what our true essence is energy, spirit. So that's another thing that I talk about as well, because a lot of people that I'm speaking of are newly on the path and aren't aware of all this lingo. They're not
True.
aware of it. So let me just talk about now, which another book of yours, because
Hmm.
I love the name of all of your books, The Psychic Yellow Brick Road.
Hmm.
I
How to
love
find the
that title.
real wizards and avoid the flying monkeys. And this goes right into what you're just talking about. You've got rookies, new folks here. And
Yes.
that's why I wrote this book. All right. The whole idea is there was no book out there that would teach you how to stay safe when you're first on the road, except books on psychic protections. But there were no books that said, this is what a psychic can do or not. This is how to choose a good one. These are the questions to ask or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's this one. And I don't care
Mm.
if you never come to have a reading with me after you read it. If this keeps you safe with any other intuitive you go to, I did my job. I did.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, because we have to use discernment
Hmm.
in everything, right?
Hmm.
Everything. Because and if you don't, guess what? You're going to learn from it. Hopefully.
Yes. Yes. It's like the old gamblers thing. You either win or you learn. Um, just as an example in there, remember we talked about all the psychic expos and things that are still around. Well, sometimes that's the very first way that people get to know what psychics do. So my description is, in order to go to your first psychic fair, you have to be like a good puppy. First, you do your walkies. That's where you just kind of walk around, see everybody who's there, and get the vibe. Then you get paper trained. What's that? You go to any booth that looks interesting and you'll pick up a flyer or a rack card, something like that.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
then you go back after you've read these, there'll be 3 or 4 people you really like the idea of. Go back to those booths. Now, if we're not busy, of course, you can talk to us. But if we are, we all have what are called front people. They're people who know our work, can describe things to you, and give you a feel for what we do. But remember, we hire these people to say they love us. My very first front person was the fabulous Laura Spickerman.
Mhm.
Laura was my husband's office manager at the museum he ran for
Mhm.
20 years, Monday
Okay.
through Friday. Is she going to dismiss his museum director on the weekends? No, she's not. So, what you need to do, find our testimonial books. We all have them, and they're on our table. And these are comments from people that have had readings. Go through some of the comments and figure it out. Are we funny? Are we friendly? Do we explain things well? Do we have specialties, children, dogs, dead people? Are we accurate? And most important, would they come back? But the last thing is check at your heart chakra.
Right.
You are putting your hard earned money on the table. If the psychic you're looking at doesn't feel like they really care, doesn't feel like they're going to give you good information, doesn't feel like they're sharp, I don't care how cool the wiki woo looks on the table. Don't go there. And if
Right.
nobody rings your chimes, leave without a reading. There will be somebody else somewhere else. Don't just settle because you think you need a reading that day. You want to
Right.
find someone that you really resonate with.
Exactly. Yes, and that right there is following your intuition,
Hmm.
right?
Exactly
Because
so.
yeah, so if that person doesn't feel like a fit to you, as you just said, then you move on to the next person. But
Hmm.
don't settle. Yes, I agree with that. Do not settle for anything. That's what I believe. Do not settle for
Hmm.
anything because I've settled most of my life and I know how that has worked out for me. I mean, I learned, yeah. And sometimes I didn't learn and I
Hmm.
had to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. So,
You took
yes,
the scenic route, not the highway. That's a problem.
exactly. I took the rough scenic route. That's what I did. But eventually I learned. So that is one thing that I can say is what you just said is basically using your intuition and not settling just because you want to have a reading,
Hmm.
like being like so hasty. No, sometimes we have to be patient. We have to have grace for ourselves.
Hmm.
And when we do that, then our own intuition, guess what? May give you the answer that you're seeking. And you don't even gotta go
Exactly
to a
right.
you don't even have to go to somebody. Now, I'm saying that because guess what? That was me. That was me. Very hasty. Want it now. Want it now. I had to
Mhm.
learn. My higher self had to teach me. And guess what? I'm still learning. I'm a work in progress. Oh, yes. And to just be patient. Because once you are patient, you get to quiet your mind, you bring in that clarity, and then your intuition can come to you instead of you
Mhm.
wanting it right there. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So I know all about that as well. But yes, great advice. People need to be aware of that. And there go that word again, aware, right?
Yes. Very
Yes.
much.
So okay. So one more book. Clean out your life closet.
Right
Yes.
here.
Yes. I love that
Now,
title.
that book was written because, I mean, I will give $100 cold cash to anybody who can legitimately say, I have never bought a self-help book or read one in my life. We all do. I remember the very first one I bought when I was 13, and I remember the first paragraph. Now, remember, this was the 60s. So, Judy has a groovy wardrobe. Her hair is fab and her makeup is far out. But nobody likes Judy because Judy's fat. Right in that first paragraph, hundreds of thousands of teenagers were
Yeah.
told, you are worthless unless you
Uh,
look the way we tell you to. And that's what a lot of self help books do. Do everything I tell you and it all gets better. And that's not the case. They haven't lived your life. So when I wrote that book, there were four things that my clients always came up against: clarity, adaptability, simplicity, and making friends with stress. So those are the four parts of the book. And in the chapters, it's here's some of the dumb things I did. Maybe here's a client story. And here are some suggestions. But the key is at the end of each chapter, I have what I called the adventure pages, which is where you answer questions based on your own life. You can't turn to page 82 and get the answers right. So, for instance, there's a chapter called How Perfect Destroys Good. What are the questions I ask? Where do you beat yourself up most often? Why? Reimagine one of those times with the idea that good can triumph over perfect. What does it look like now? How would your life change if you stopped thinking perfection was the only correct response to a project or situation? To the
yeah.
point where when you answer all the questions at the end of each chapter, by the end of the book, that is your personal manual. It will
Mm-hmm.
talk specifically to you. And your best friend could buy the book the same day, do all the answers. Her book would end up being completely different because it speaks directly to her.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that's what it's supposed to do because everybody is uniquely different.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be that way. It's not a one size fit all. No.
No, when we think that we must do things the way the book tells us. I mean, one book that I was studying to see what else was out there, in the book, the woman said, well, you have to get up 2 hours early every day to do yoga and avoid food with leptin. I'm sorry, if you are a single mom with two kids and you've got a job and you live in Milwaukee, you are not going to do that. So, right
Right.
there, the book says, well, you're a failure because you're not doing exactly what we say. And
Yeah.
my job in that book was to build people up, not
Right.
tear them down.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because we don't need any more tearing down. We need uplifting,
Yeah,
uplifting one
we do.
another.
We
Yes,
do.
uplifting one another so everybody can find their own greatness,
Yes.
happiness,
Hmm.
all of that. Whatever it looks like for you, when you step or make those first steps,
Hmm.
if you have to make a step, you might be right there. That's
Yes.
that's the that's the beauty, right? That's the
Yes.
beauty of all of this life journey is it's going to be different for everyone. And that is what I find very fascinating because when I speak to people such as yourself and others, I get to hear their perspective. And guess what? I get to learn from every single person that I
Hmm.
come into contact with because I already know in my mind that, guess what? She's teaching me something. And guess what? I may be teaching her something, vice versa. It goes both ways. So when you
Yes,
can
it
be
does.
open like that, that is when the universe can maneuver things in the world for your greatest good. But we
Hmm.
have to be open to receive these gifts. I call them gifts. Yes,
Yes.
I believe everything is a gift. And that's another thing, perception, right?
Hmm.
Whatever your perception is. So if you perceive that, and that's what I perceive because I know that I'm learning
Hmm.
from that person. So, okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Corbie.
People, how do you look at tough things? I mean, they hear my life: cancer, divorce, poverty, rape, abuse, and they think, oh my God, how horrible. And I go, look, it was not fun to go through, but everything I had to deal with
Right.
has given me the ability to have a superb, strong third marriage. We've been together now over a quarter century. It has made me a compassionate, non judgmental counselor. There's nothing any client can tell me that I will cringe from or think, that's awful, I can't help you, because it's all the experience that our souls go through in
Mhm.
each incarnation. So, was it, it wasn't gut courses, it was double major plus lab to graduate, but I am a better and more useful counselor to my clients now because I've walked the dark paths too and come
Yeah.
out on the other side. So
Yes.
I don't care what tough stuff you folks are, you who are listening, I don't care how terrible your life has been. You can take from that nuggets of wisdom, resilience, self confidence, and then you can offer them to others as well because we are all teachers. Every
Yes.
single one of us has to teach something before we go back home.
That's right. Absolutely. I resonate with that. I align with that. And I embrace that. Like I literally walk through life like when I meet a stranger and
Mhm.
they may just have something it's like small talk, but in that small talk, guess what? There's something I'm learning. It could be patience. It could be
Mhm.
something I missed yet last week and that person will say that word. You see what I'm saying? So
Yes.
then because I'm open, I receive what that person was telling me. And then I'm happy because I was open. You see, I was open and I aligned myself to receive. So that's what I'm learning too right now on my journey. And I'm telling that to a lot of people as well to be patient and just be open because when you are able to see more in your life because I'm here to tell you when I was younger, and this is a part of my journey, and I accept it. I missed a lot of things. Yeah, I missed a
Mhm.
lot of things on the journey because I was so fast and thinking this way. But I do know that that was a part of the journey. That was a part of me learning and evolving and just becoming who I am now, so I can look back and do just like what you're doing, and say to people, okay, I went down dark paths too, and I've learned from them. I really have, and I can see the silver, the gold lining in life once you slow down. Corbie, I want to ask you for our last words. Is there, because
Mhm.
we're going to end the podcast, I want to ask you any last words you want to say to the viewers? You can give them
Yes.
your website or anything, and then we're going to wrap up the podcast.
Okay. How to find me? Very simple. Everything is Corbie Mitleid. My website is corbiemitleid.com. You can find me on YouTube where there are meditations and how to articles. Those are wonderful. But What I want to give you for last words today, there are three important questions you can always ask yourself in any situation. When you're angry, when you're depressed, when you can't think. First question is, what am I X about? X is how you're feeling, angry, fearful, whatever. Then ask yourself, why am I X about that? Why am I angry? Why am I fearful? And look at your answers with compassion. And the third question we never ask ourselves, which opens the door to change. What do I think would happen if I stopped being X about that? Fine. I lost my job. I'm angry. What do I think would happen if I stopped being angry about that? Maybe I'd be ready to explore something new. Your
Yeah.
husband leaves you. Why am I fearful? Who am I going to be? What happens if I stop being fearful? I rediscover who I am. That third question is going to open up a whole new life for you. And everybody can do it.
Yes. Yes. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. And so I'm just grateful, Corbie, you have come to the Treasures You podcast. For all my listeners, as I always say at the end of the podcast, to remember to be in the present moment, to enjoy the steps of your journey, be patient with yourself, and also to remember that the treasure is you. So take care and namaste.